I have already seen people die in every possible way inside that hospital, some in silence, others fighting until their very last second, some afraid, others completely empty. But there is one detail no one ever taught me in college, something I only came to understand after I started working there, and that still haunts me whenever I close my eyes at night. Some of those people were not alone when they died, and the most terrifying part is not that. The most terrifying part is that whatever was with them was not human. I work as a nutritionist in a relatively old hospital here in the region, a place that seems ordinary at first glance: white corridors, the constant smell of disinfectant, cold lights flickering every now and then. But there is something in that building that cannot be explained logically, something you do not notice on your first day, not even in your first week, but that slowly begins to reveal itself, as if the environment itself were testing you, waiting for the right moment to show you that inside there, the rules are not the same as those of the outside world, and everyone who works there long enough eventually reaches the same conclusion, even if no one says it out loud. The hospital has 3 floors, and there is a pattern I only noticed after that night, a pattern no one talks about, but everyone unconsciously respects. Because after a certain hour, especially after midnight, the 3rd floor starts to feel different. It is not something immediately visible. There are no screams, no shadows running through the corridors. It is worse than that. It is the silence. A heavy, suffocating silence, as if the air itself became denser, as if something were there, observing, waiting, and you can feel it on your skin, even without understanding why. In my first week on the job, I still did not believe in these things. I still tried to explain everything rationally. Everything had to have a cause, a reason, a meaning, until that night. When I was on the 3rd floor with my co-worker, Fernanda, it was already late. The hospital was emptier, the sounds had faded, and all that remained was that strange silence that seemed to swallow any noise. And we were standing there watching a specific room, Room 3, where an elderly man was admitted in terminal condition, the kind of patient you look at and already know will not last much longer. His breathing was weak, irregular, as if every movement of his chest was an enormous effort, as if his body had already given up. But something was still keeping him there. That was when I realized there was someone else inside the room, and at first it did not seem strange. Hospitals have visitors, doctors come and go all the time, but something about that presence did not fit. It did not belong in that environment. It made no sense. It was as if my eyes were seeing something my brain refused to accept, and the longer I stared, the more that sense of discomfort grew inside me, until it turned into an intense cold that started at the back of my neck and slowly ran down my spine, as if my entire body were trying to warn me that this was not normal. I called Fernanda without taking my eyes off the room. My voice came out lower than I expected, almost like an involuntary whisper, and I asked her to look too, to confirm that I was not losing my mind, that it was not just exhaustion or my imagination. And when she looked, her silence lasted seconds that felt like minutes, until she finally responded, her voice tense, almost breaking, asking if I could also see the man in black. And at that exact moment, any attempt at a rational explanation simply died inside me, because we were both seeing the same thing. The figure was tall, taller than any normal person, completely wrapped in something dark, but it was not clothing, it was not fabric. It was like an absence of light, a dense, living blur that moved slowly and deliberately, as if it were in no hurry at all, as if it knew exactly what it was doing there. And even without being able to see a face, eyes, or any human detail, there was a presence there, a consciousness, something that not only occupied that space, but completely dominated the environment around it. We stood there, watching, unable to look away, as if any movement might draw that thing's attention. And then it began to move across the room, slow, silent steps, almost floating, until it approached the bed where the man was lying. And what happened next is something I have never been able to forget. no matter how much time passes, because that thing simply sat beside him, as if it had done that countless times before, slowly raised its arm and began to stroke the man's head with an unsettling calm, almost gentle. There was no aggression, no urgency, no violence. And maybe that is exactly what makes it even more disturbing, because it did not feel like an attack. It felt like a ritual, something natural, something that was part of a process we simply do, not understand. And in that moment I felt something I had never felt before. It was not just fear, it was the certainty that I was witnessing something no living person was meant to see. Fernanda tried to rationalize it. She whispered something about maybe a visitor being allowed in outside of visiting hours because of the patient's condition, but it made no sense. None of it made any sense. And before either of us could react, we heard voices in the hallway, footsteps approaching, family members arriving to see the man one last time, and at the exact moment the door to the room began to open, that thing simply disappeared, without a sound, without any sudden movement, as if it had never been there, as if it had been erased from reality. I stood there completely paralyzed, trying to process what had just happened, trying to find any logical explanation, anything that could make it seem less absurd. But deep down, I already knew that was not something that could be explained. And the worst was still to come, because less than 30 minutes later, the family members left the room in silence, some crying, others in shock, and the news quickly spread through the floor the man had died. And when I finally entered the room and looked at his body, something made me freeze again, because unlike so many other deaths I had witnessed, there was no pain on his face, no tension, no suffering. There was calm, a deep, impossible calm, as if he had simply accepted it, as if he had left accompanied. That night, after everything happened, I could not simply leave and pretend nothing had occurred, because that was not the kind of thing you witness and forget. It was not something you could explain or fit into any logic. It was as if that scene had become stuck inside my head, replaying in detail the slow movement of that figure, the way it touched the man, the absurd calm of that moment. And the more I thought about it, the more I felt that it was not an isolated event, that there was a pattern behind all of it, something I had not yet fully understood, but that was already pulling me into a reality I never wanted to believe existed. When I went down to the first floor, still trying to compose myself, I ran into an older nurse from the hospital, someone who had clearly seen more than she should have over the years, and even without knowing exactly why, I felt that I needed to tell her everything, as if deep down I already expected that she would not be surprised. And that is exactly what happened. Because as I described every detail, from the appearance of the figure to the moment it disappeared, she showed no shock, did not try to interrupt me. She simply watched me in silence, with a heavy look, as if what I was saying was only confirming something she had known for a long time. When I finished, expecting some explanation, anything that would make me doubt what I had seen, she simply took a deep breath and said, with a disturbing calmness, that I should not have seen that. And then she asked, almost as if she already knew the answer, if I had seen the man in black. And in that moment, everything inside me froze, because that sentence not only confirmed that it was real, but also made it clear that it was not the first time someone had seen it, that it was part of that hospital, something silent, recurring, known by those who had been there long enough to notice the pattern. She then pulled me slightly aside and, in a low voice, explained that over the years, several people had reported the same presence, always on the third floor, always at very specific moments, and that it never appeared by chance, never without a reason, because according to her, that figure would show up shortly before someone died, as if it were accompanying them, waiting. And the most disturbing part was not just the presence itself, but what came after, because almost all the people who died after being visited by it died differently, without suffering, without despair, as if they accepted it, as if they were not alone in that final moment. That stayed in my mind for the following days, growing in a way I could not control, because it was not just fear, it was a constant feeling that I had seen something I should not have, that I had crossed an invisible line, and no matter how much I tried to ignore it, to focus on work and follow my routine normally, that thought would not leave me alone. Until a few weeks later, when I had to return to the third floor at night, and the moment I stepped there again, I felt exactly the same thing, the same heavy silence, the same strange air, as if the entire environment were different, as if something was still there waiting. As I walked down the corridor, trying to ignore that growing sense of discomfort, a low, dragging sound echoed from the far end of the floor, and in that moment, my whole body reacted before I could even think. I stopped immediately, feeling a chill run up my spine, and when the sound repeated, clearer this time, I knew it was not my imagination, that there was something there with me, and when I finally gathered the courage to look, my heart almost stopped, because at the far end of the corridor, partially covered by the dim light, there was a dark, tall, motionless shape, exactly as I remembered, as if it had never left. That thing began to move slowly toward me, each step controlled, silent, as if it were in no hurry at all, and as it got closer, that heavy feeling in the environment increased, making it hard to even breathe. And that was when a detail snapped into place in my mind in a brutal way, because I looked around and realized there were no patients in critical condition on that floor, no emergency, no one on the verge of death, and the realization hit me like a shock. Because if that thing only appeared before someone died, then its presence there could only mean one thing. When it finally stopped, just a few meters away from me, I felt as if I was being watched in a way that cannot be explained, even without a face, even without eyes. I knew that it was staring at me, and in that instant, everything made sense, in a way I never wanted to understand. Because it was not there by chance, it was not there for someone else, it was not waiting for anyone on that floor, it was there for me. And the worst part was not realizing that. It was what happened next, when that figure slightly tilted its head, as if it were recognizing me, as if it already knew exactly who I was. Since that night, I have never been the same, because now I know that it exists, I know that it is real, and worse, I know that somehow I have been marked, because whenever I return to the third floor at night, I feel that presence at the end of the corridor, silent, motionless, waiting, and sometimes, for just a second, I get the impression that it is closer than before, as if time were running out, as if that inevitable moment were approaching, and when it arrives, I already know I will not be alone.